joined us. Welcome, everyone. So this session is on how to integrate AI into your marketing processes without losing the human touch. Obviously, everyone talks about AI the last few months or the last year, and it's more about figuring out in more practical ways on how we can use it to integrate it to our existing processes and make us more efficient. Just an introduction, my name is Teresa Lita. I'm a marketing consultant. Been working for 11 years now, mostly in social media and content marketing. And I enjoy, with or without AI, exploring new ways to be more efficient and looking for new processes that can help make the work smoother, no matter what objectives we have. Let's start with a poll, just to see where everyone is on the AI journey. So you should be able now to see it on your screen. It's launched now. There are 3 questions. Let's see, how often do you use generative AI, if you use it, of course? What's the biggest opportunity for you when it comes to marketing and communications? And what's the biggest challenge? Let's wait for a minute for everyone to vote. First answer is coming in. It's a good range up to now, from every day up to not being consistent, which is expected. Perfect, almost everyone has voted, so just a few more seconds. Great, let's share the results for everyone to see. So in terms of the frequency, most of you said I'm not consistent yet, which is fair. I also fit in this category, trying to figure it out. Some days or weeks I'm trying it more, but not really in a cadence that is very consistent. What's the biggest opportunity in using AI? I'll make sure I share the results because everyone could share their own thoughts. And what's the biggest challenge? So it was lack of understanding and expertise, concerns and data privacy and security, lack of time, and also one said integration with existing tools and processes. So all of them make sense. It's good to see that we're on the same page. And of course, there's no one who really has every answer. It's more trying to figure out how do we implement all the new opportunities into our existing processes. A few more people are joining. Hello, everyone. So it's good to start. I was having a look on different reports, and obviously over the last year with so many reports on different stats, but we're focusing today on AI and marketing. So we want to understand where we are really in the state. So 3 out of 5 workers, according to Salesforce, 61% of workers said they currently use or plan to use generative AI. And it's pretty similar to what we mentioned now at the poll. 60% of employees picked human oversight as the top factor to trust generative AI. So there was a question from Salesforce, what would be the thing that would make you trust generative AI even more? And it's also what we're talking today on making sure you still have that quality control and having the human element and not just automating everything. Why? Also something that's really interesting. Let me make sure everything is muted. Oh. For good. Another interesting stat is 71% of marketers expect generative AI to help them eliminate busy work and allow them to focus more on strategic work. And that's something that we hear quite a lot in general on how people, even beyond marketing, they're trying to look at ways to be more efficient, really. And that's how you want to use generative AI. And also something that is important to consider, it's also what we saw in the report, 43% of marketers, they don't know how to get the most value out of it. Obviously, it's something that's very new. We're all trying to figure it out. And it's about exploring ways on seeing what works for you, just spending more time on it, trying to understand it. And then, of course, finding that additional training when you feel you're ready to spend more time on that. So this session is on looking at some practical steps on how to add AI into your existing marketing and communication processes. So it's a simple and practical approach just to start understanding how can I start from the big and scary concept of AI or generative AI and make it more practical, make it more specific to my existing work. So let's look at 5 steps on how to get started. So the first step, it's really important to start with where you are. Start with your existing processes and identify the pain points. So you want to understand what's working right now for me? Where do I spend more time? Or what is really time consuming for me? So you want to look at your strengths and weaknesses pretty much. And when we're talking about processes, it could be anything that has to do with your work. Could be content creation, brainstorming, repurposing content, SEO and content planning, social media marketing, video content creation, or even just admin tasks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be strictly about marketing. It's just thinking in general, what are the processes that I'm working on right now? What takes the most time? And how can I really review where I am and what I want to improve? So this is an example. I was trying to think of a process for campaign planning, a simple approach. And it's something you can do on your own. You might want to use a digital tool or you want to write down on a piece of paper. So think of the processes, the examples we mentioned earlier, and using campaign planning, for example. So these are all the different steps that will be part of campaign planning. There is strategy, ideation, content creation, content repurposing. You're launching your campaign, you're running A/B testing, there's optimization and measurement. So these are all the steps. You're thinking, this is what I need to do in order to launch a campaign from start to finish. So looking at your existing process, it really helps you to understand where you spend more time or what are the areas that you feel that you really need some help. So as an example, we might say, I feel like I need more help with content creation and content repurposing. So being able to spend that time to look at one process as an example, it helps you to understand what you need to improve. And this is the next step on being closer to deciding how you want to use AI. So the second stage, you want to define the objectives. So how do you want to use AI? It's not just about saying in general, I want to integrate AI into my processes, but what are the specific use cases? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? So you want to define the objectives and choose the best use case of AI. So for examples on how you can use AI, you could use AI as your thought partner in terms of brainstorming. It could be an analyst going through data, a creator, which is something that many are already experimenting with using, for example, ChatGPT for content creation, or an automation agent where you want to explore with different applications and how you can really add more automation. So you want to think, what do you really want to achieve by adding AI to a specific process or a specific use case? And what's the specific use case that would really make you more efficient? So rather than just saying, I want to use ChatGPT because everyone does right now, I want to spend more time, you want to be more specific. So you want to say, for example, I want to use ChatGPT to spend more time on brainstorming and have it as a thought partner. And then you also want to think, how will I measure success? So if that's an experiment for me, what does success look like? Is it about efficiency and saving time? Is it about content outputs? Is it for business development and generating leads or increasing traffic? So there's no right and wrong answer, obviously. It's more about trying to be more specific as you can, of course. So here are some examples when we're talking specifically today about marketing and communications of different use cases. And these are use cases where you can pretty much use AI. You have some examples, you have a starting point, and then you say, okay, I think I need more time on copywriting or I need more help with video generation. And that's where I want to find the right tool for that. So let's pause for a second and ask everyone, if you have tried ChatGPT up to now on any of those use cases, or if you already know, if you have identified that some of them would really be useful for you to find the right tool. Feel free to share at the chat or any other use cases if you already used AI, any tool really. Would be good to see everyone's thoughts. Ginny says, used as a thought partner and to help draft social media posts. That's great. I've also tried that. How is the process for you? And also feel free, if you feel comfortable, to use the microphone if it's easier, or chat is always great. Millie says basic content creation so far, but SEO keyword research would be useful. I have no idea what you use it for email journeys and personalization. Yes, it's pretty much tools like Zapier or all the other automations where they're already introducing AI features, and they're trying to help you automate the journey even more and just predict what's working or support you even more in the thought process. Obviously, it's still at the start, but there's definitely more space in this. Anyone else who has tried beyond content creation, which is probably, I assume, what most of us have tried as a starting point? Or anything that you would like to try, just seeing the examples now? Something, for example, that I want to explore more is in terms of admin and processes. So it's either automation on that front or just brainstorming. So pretty much trying to find ways, what are the things that take more time on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis? And how can I really find a process that works best for me? Ginny says there's a lot I'd like to try, but we don't have a social media budget. Makes sense. And also you don't need to try too many things at once because obviously there's also not enough time. Roberto says, I use it as a copy editor, mostly for Grammarly AI. Also a really good point, really good use. Perfect. We'll talk more about tools very soon. Just wanted to have a starting point. And going back into what we mentioned earlier on campaign planning, linking the use case is what we just talked about, the examples, to the actual process of a workflow. So if you just mapped out the process, let's say for campaign planning, now we just talked about the objectives. So this is the time to think, I think I need more help with content creation. So now I identified the need for an AI tool. And also I want to make sure now that I measure the progress and the experiment. So this way, by identifying the areas that you want to focus more, it becomes less overwhelming. So you don't feel that it's something really scary and it's something really complicated. So now it's time that you find the right tools. And of course, that can take a lot of experiments, but also you want to figure out the kind of tools that works for specific use cases. So you want to find what works best for you. You might want to try some different ones. And then by the time you pick the one that works best, you want to train yourself and your team. So how do you choose a tool? And obviously, depending on the use case, there are many out there. The first obvious is what I mentioned, is about the use case. So if we're saying, for example, I need a content creation tool, a thought partner, so that's where you want to think, or just use Google to find new tools and explore what makes sense for you. You might want to focus on simplicity, so something that is not complicated and it's easy to use. It's obviously the cost a big factor. So is it a free tool? Do you need to pay? How does it really save you time, or what's the process? And then you might also want to check if there's training required, if it's something that needs a little bit more time to invest. And of course, the integrations, if it needs further code, if it's easy to access, and all the other things that would really make you choose a tool in general. So let's look at some examples, and I'll make sure I share the list with everyone just to explore different use cases. So ChatGPT is obviously the most popular one. It's good for content ideation or also content creation. And it's a good starting point. If you want to experiment with generative AI, it is definitely a good starting point. And there's also a free plan and a plus version, which is now adding more features. So we'll be able, for example, to have a plugin or search on the internet directly or upload PDFs. But there are also other tools if you want to still stay on the free version. So another tool for content creation is Claude, and I found that more useful in some cases compared to ChatGPT when I want to create content. You might also want to experiment with both to find what works best for you, but it's similar in a sense of having it for brainstorming or content creation as a use case. If you want to create images and get AI support, Canva announced a Magic Studio, which is a series of AI tools where you can really use it to find images. You can just type, for example, 3-4 words, and it can create an image for you. And you can also use the text version of generating text as part of the image. And I definitely recommend to give it a try because obviously Canva is a very popular design tool, and it's only the start. It's an indication of how the AI design tools can really go. Another tool for video generation is Synthesia. It's a way to create pretty much AI video with specific avatars or voiceovers, and it's really useful if you create training content or if you want to explore the idea of creating more videos for your organization. Another one that's also really useful, and we mentioned just now the idea of repurposing content, is Copymatic, and there are many other tools out there where you pretty much start exploring different content opportunities, and it repurposes them for different occasions. So you might want to create a social media post, an ad, a blog post, an SEO meta description. So all the different ways when you want to explore digital channels that you want to repurpose the content, it definitely helps you to save time. Another one that's a little bit more advanced, but it's definitely interesting. And the idea of content workflows in general is interesting with the use of AI. It's about integrating with your existing tools and creating a workflow on your own. So rather than just what we presented in a simple way, looking and reviewing your current workflows, you can integrate your existing tools, bring them all in one place, and create an even more powerful automation. So it might look more complicated for some people as a start, but it's also a good indication of where things could go in the future and how AI can really evolve. When you want to improve conversions, I discovered a tool a few days ago called Flowpoint AI, and it's helping you to understand your analytics, your data, and it's giving you more insights. So if you feel that you're lost among all different data, you want more support, it's definitely good to give a try, a tool, something like that. One I also discovered last week, it's called Fundraiser GPT. It's powered by ChatGPT, but it's an assistant for fundraisers. So if you're in the charity sector working in fundraising, or you just want to give it a try, it might be a good idea to see if it saves you time, if it helps you from the starting point, or if you think that I just end up in the end spending more time. Of course, you don't need to add it to your list, but it's definitely a good experiment. Another one in terms of productivity, and this is about trying to be more efficient, is Focusdoro, which is pretty much Pomodoro, which is a technique to stay focused. So you stay focused for a certain amount of time, so you don't have distractions, you don't jump from one tab to another, and you feel more productive. So this can help you analyze your productivity, and it just uses AI in a way to take this exercise to the next level. So it's definitely a good tool to try. So then we just looked obviously at a few examples, and before going to prioritize, it might be good to check if you have any other recommendations based on the use cases we discussed. For example, Roberto mentioned earlier about Grammarly AI. How are you finding it, Roberto? Or any other tools really you might have heard of and you haven't tried?
Yeah, no, I use Grammarly AI, so I'll usually do like my copy on there and Grammarly fix it, and then I say like improve it. And then if I do a blog in there, I'll have it also then make it appropriate for social media for each platform. And then the AI will generate like captions for me.
Nice.
The one that I've slightly toyed with but haven't completely played with is the Canva AI. I did the Canva erase, which was okay. Obviously, it's new, so they still have a lot of tweaks to like
Yeah.
hash out. But the ones they just released a couple weeks ago, I haven't played with yet, and I'm looking forward to playing with those.
Yeah, I played with it last week, probably when they announced it. And I just went on the usual process of creating an image, and it said just go to the search option, type 4 or 5 words, and I'll try to create an image based on what you described. And it was scarily accurate. I'm sure like it's not going to be the same on every single occasion, but it was really surprising to see that what would take a few minutes or longer if you're not comfortable, you just type a few words and it creates the image for you. So really interesting how this goes. So then we said, obviously, you pick the tools. It's time to prioritize because it's really easy to just fall into the trap to keep trying different tools. I've done that. I've spent a lot of time, but you want to make sure that you focus again on the use cases and spend the time on what works best for you. So it's probably best for now to start small, focus on 1 or 2 use cases at the time so that you don't feel overwhelmed. You spend more time on the specific experiment and you start documenting your learnings. It's a good idea for now to just see what works best for you. How do you find that you're becoming more efficient? And what can you really learn? Can you really communicate the learnings with others, whether it's about your team or others outside your organization? So when you prioritize, you want to think of the impact. What would be the most impactful tool to add to your workflows? Feasibility, how easy is it to add it to your processes? Do you need to make big changes? Is it more about internal communication? Or is it something that's really easy? You just add it to your work and it makes it faster. You want to think of the urgency. How important and urgent is it to integrate a specific tool? How much will it help you save time or really make a difference to your work? And also you want to look at how it aligns with your organizational objectives. And obviously beyond objectives, there's also the mission, and that's a whole other conversation in terms of ethics, security, data, which is obviously something that it's a growing concern. And it's a work in progress, obviously, when it comes to AI. So you want to also, before you pick a tool, to just have a look at everything before you're ready to add it. And then there's personal interest. For example, the one I've shared about the productivity and Pomodoro technique. It's just an example how I already wanted to find more ways to be more productive. That's not necessarily strictly about my work, but it's just exploring ways. How can we use AI into ways that make more sense for us? And obviously there are too many tools out there. There's always something that might be useful for you. And then the last step, you want to review and refine. So you review your process. Once you integrated the tools, you start exploring how it works, if it really helps you save time, if it makes you more productive. And you really want to learn and document the learning, what we said, before you scale. So it's useful to create a use case document, write down a few ideas, what you've tried, what you experimented with. And it's good to communicate the progress because everyone is still trying. We're still very early. So any learnings are really good learnings right now. So feel free to start small, pick a couple of use cases, and don't have the expectations that everything should be perfect. Everyone is still trying to figure things out. You just want to make sure you understand the process and you find the tools that work best for you. So let's look at an example of a workflow. And I just wanted to share the idea of blending AI with the human element. Obviously, we don't want to just add tools to the mix to automate everything. The human element is still important. It's the quality control. And we want to make sure we have that oversight. It's what we saw at the stats. People trust AI more when they feel that they have control. So going back to the example of campaign planning, let's say you map out the workflow. These are the steps. And you want to just write down what are the steps that involve just working on my own, involving AI, or just delegating everything to AI. So with strategy, obviously, you want to have the control. So this is the human element and you owning that. An ideation, you might want to say, I'm going to use ChatGPT, but I also want to make sure that I don't just copy and paste everything I created. I will be the one to have the control and finalize the ideas and pick the ones that make sense for me. Then you create the content. Again, you can use a tool like Claude or ChatGPT to create more ideas, create content for your campaign. But again, you will be the one to have the oversight. Then there's repurposing. And we saw an example of tools where you can just add the blog post and create social media posts, for example. You can automate that with ChatGPT. And of course, it's up to you if you want to also add the human element even more. Then you launch the campaign. You might want to use AI tools to help you in the process, but of course, you will be the one to have the oversight. A/B testing, you can really run more experiments and analyze them and have the support of AI. Optimization is important, so it's up to you to make sure that as part of the A/B testing, you're the one to decide when I need to stop and optimize the process, or if I want to continue the way it is. So just to have the look at everything. And then measurement, you can use, as we said in the use case earlier, AI as an analyst, but you will be the one to have the decision. You're the one who knows your organization, your previous campaigns, your audience. So you want to use all those skills to make sure that you make the most of AI. So this is an example which obviously you can try on your own and explore how can I think of specific workflows, things that I'm working on, and what are the areas of focus where I can really add AI in a way that makes more sense, and I also still have the control as the human element there. And then when you map out pretty much the workflow, you decide where you want to use AI. It's the time, as we said, to find the right tools. So as a summary, all the things we discussed today, it's more like an introduction really to how to start thinking more practically about AI. Start with your current processes. So review where you are. You might want to pick a specific process, or you might want to think of the bigger picture of marketing, and try to analyze the things that you spend more time on. What do you want to improve? Where do you think that you need more support? And how can you really add AI to the mix? So you want to define the objectives. You want to find the use cases. So what's the best use case in terms of AI? How can I really think more practically? And why do I want to use it in the specific example of the process? So then once you narrow it down and you're more specific, it's time to find the right tools. You start experiment with different at the start, but then you also want to see what works best for you, to start documenting the learnings and see what works best, reviewing, refine, until you're finding what the ideal workflow for you. So if you find that interesting, starting pretty much a newsletter I started a couple of weeks ago on understanding AI, and it's just running different experiments on my own, trying different workflows and AI tools, just to understand what we're discussing now. What are different use cases? What are different tools? And how can we really use them? So if it's useful, feel free to subscribe. Obviously, it's free. And thank you very much. Enough from me. I think it's probably best now to continue the conversation, all of us, and just explore more on where you are really and how you want to approach AI on the next steps. What's the first thing, for example, you would like to try?